What happens when Hollywood's most enigmatic star walks onto a stage expecting a light-hearted conversation, only to be met with thinly veiled hostility? This is the unforgettable moment when Johnny Depp, beloved for his mysterious charm and deep artistry, found himself at the center of a televised confrontation that left viewers stunned and the industry shaken. Tonight, we unpack every tense exchange, every subtle jab, and every word that turned an ordinary interview into a cautionary tale for modern media. If you thought you knew what went down on that infamous night, you don't. The hidden truth behind the explosive Johnny Depp versus Jimmy Kimmel face-off will leave you questioning the very nature of celebrity culture. Make sure to subscribe and leave your opinion in the comments, because after this, you might never look at late-night interviews the same way again. The evening started like countless others in Los Angeles at the bustling Jimmy Kimmel Live studio. The audience, electric with anticipation, awaited the arrival of none other than Johnny Depp. Dressed in his signature layers of scarves, rings, and eccentric charm, Depp emerged from backstage to roaring applause. Every step toward the guest chair was met with adoration. But beneath the claps and cheers, an unsettling undercurrent lingered, one that would soon surface. Kimmel, perched confidently at his desk, welcomed Depp with the warmth of a seasoned entertainer. His smile stretched wide, but for those paying close attention, it lacked sincerity. "Johnny, back again," Kimmel greeted, but his grin barely reached his eyes. "Been what, 3 years since you've been here?" The words were friendly, but the tone hinted otherwise. Depp, unshaken, took his seat with grace. "Yes, I believe so, Jimmy. Thank you for having me again," he said politely, his signature calm enveloping the room. Kimmel leaned forward, his expression shifting, a sharper edge creeping into his voice. 3 years. A lot can happen in 3 years, right? Especially in your life. The audience chuckled awkwardly. Something was off. This wasn't banter, it was bait. Depp, always poised, simply offered a courteous nod. "Life happens," he said softly. "But tonight, I'm happy to share the work. This new film, it's a special one." But Kimmel barely acknowledged the remark, brushing it aside like it didn't matter. "Sure, the film, we'll get to it. But first, let's talk about the colorful chapters of your life recently, shall we?" Cameras captured a fleeting shift in Depp's expression, a quiet tension flashing across his eyes before his practiced composure returned. Viewers who had followed Depp's career knew he wasn't one for tabloid theater. He believed in storytelling, in characters, in depth, not gossip. "I've always thought," Depp began slowly, "that the work speaks for itself. The art, the performance, the characters, that's what matters." Kimmel's laugh sliced through the room, loud and dismissive. "Oh, Johnny, come on. You don't have to do the brooding philosopher thing here. Let's give the audience what they really came for." The air grew heavier. This wasn't late-night fun anymore. This was something else, something raw, something calculated. Depp adjusted in his seat, still composed but with an unmistakable sense of measured caution. "I'm not sure what you mean, Jimmy," Depp said, his tone cool but unmistakably firm. "I came to talk about a film we poured ourselves into. It deserves the spotlight." Right, Kimmel waved dismissively, his smile morphing into something more smug. "That film where you play a misunderstood outsider. How appropriate." The room shifted. The audience, sensing a dangerous turn, fell quiet. Cameras zoomed in on Depp, who now fixed his gaze directly at Kimmel, unblinking. "You know, Jimmy," Depp said after a moment, his voice controlled yet sharp, "I've always admired the art of conversation, especially when it's built on mutual respect." That word, respect, lingered in the air like a warning shot. But Kimmel, either oblivious or defiant, pressed forward, eyes narrowing, notes rustling. "Speaking of respect, let's address some unique moments from your recent film sets. Sources say you've cost productions millions from your, how shall we put it, relaxed arrival times." There it was. The line crossed, the gloves off. The studio grew palpably tense. Even the lighting seemed harsher. Yet Depp remained still, not a muscle twitched. "I've had the privilege," he replied evenly, "to work with brilliant directors and passionate crews. Every project has its rhythms and hurdles, but I've always honored the craft." "So you're denying it?" Kimmel jabbed, his voice sharper now, eyes gleaming with provocation. Depp didn't flinch. "What I'm saying," he answered, "is perhaps we should focus on the work and not on hearsay." The silence was deafening. Then Kimmel forced a laugh, turning toward the crowd. "You hear that, folks?" No comment, moving on. But he wasn't moving on, he was escalating. Kimmel's fingers flicked through his notes, his face tightening. "Johnny, let's talk about, let's call it, lifestyle choices. Your reputation precedes you. The audience is dying to know how you balance certain habits with professionalism. An audible shift echoed through the studio. Shock, discomfort, disbelief. Depp's history was no secret, but to drag it out, here, now, felt invasive, cruel even. Depp's gaze hardened, but his voice stayed gentle. Jimmy, there are people watching tonight who are facing struggles of their own. They need compassion, not spectacle. A ripple of applause tried to rise, but was quickly stifled by a sharp look from Kimmel. He was losing control, and it showed. Well, that's convenient, Kimmel sneered, leaning in. Hide behind empathy to dodge the question. The audience sat frozen, many sensing the uncomfortable power struggle unfolding before them. Depp, with his characteristic restraint, simply responded, I'm not dodging anything, Jimmy. I'm here to speak about my work, to share something meaningful with your viewers. If you wanted a gossip column, perhaps that should have been made clear before I accepted the invitation. Kimmel's laugh was empty, forced, and lacking any of the warmth typically seen on his show. That's not how this works, Johnny, he retorted. People don't tune in to hear about the artistic process. They tune in for the juicy stuff, the real stories. Depp's head tilted slightly as he glanced around, finally addressing the audience directly. Is that really what you want? He asked, voice calm yet piercing. Is that why you watch, or is that what he wants? The shift in the room was palpable. Whispers rustled through the crowd. Some nodded in agreement, others squirmed in their seats, but everyone was aware. Depp had turned the tables. For the first time, the guest was questioning the host's intentions. Kimmel, visibly thrown off, straightened his posture and quickly announced, Let's take a quick break. Cameras cut away, but the room remained thick with tension. Off camera, the situation only grew more chaotic. Producers rushed toward Kimmel, whispering frantic instructions, while makeup artists hovered nervously around Depp. The actor sat serenely, declining offers of water, his gaze fixed firmly on Kimmel. His posture spoke volumes, calm, collected, and completely unmoved. When the cameras returned, Kimmel forced a rehearsed smile. We're back, folks, joined by the always interesting Johnny Depp. But before Kimmel could redirect the narrative, Depp leaned forward slightly. Actually, Jimmy, we haven't talked about the film at all, have we? The remark, so smooth yet direct, drew a few chuckles from the audience, nervous but supportive. Kimmel, his patience thinning, waved it off. Yeah, the film. Where you play yet another misunderstood outcast. How original. Unfazed, Depp responded. Every character tells their own story, Jimmy. Just like every interview reveals its own motives. The veiled jab wasn't lost on anyone. Kimmel's jaw tightened, but he pressed on, flipping through his notes. Let's talk about your reputation on set. I have it on good authority, a director once said, and I quote, Johnny Depp lives in a completely different reality than the rest of us. Thoughts? Depp raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Which director, Jimmy? Kimmel's grin sharpened. Anonymous source. Depp's smile remained, steady and sharp. Isn't it funny how those anonymous voices always seem to have the nastiest things to say? So, you think I'm making it up? Kimmel challenged, his voice now carrying a bite. I'm saying, Depp replied carefully, that credible journalism, if this counts as that, requires accountability. Names, facts, not baseless rumors. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This wasn't a typical interview anymore. It had morphed into a chess match, and Depp was holding his ground. Flustered, Kimmel flipped the page. Let's talk about your new film, since you're so eager. It's about perception, isn't it? The public's view versus reality? Seems ironic, doesn't it? Depp's reply was immediate and confident. Not ironic, Jimmy, fitting. Every human being knows what it's like to be misunderstood. Art explores that, because truth matters. For a fleeting second, Kimmel seemed rattled, the sincerity catching him off guard. But the host recovered, adopting his signature sarcasm. Profound. But you know what people really want to know? $6 million on firing cannons for someone's ashes, private islands, extravagant spending. How do you justify that? Even Kimmel's band looked uneasy now. The producers offstage exchanged worried glances. Yet Depp didn't falter. His voice softened but carried unmistakable weight. Jimmy, I know the business of television. You need viral moments, big ratings. I understand. But there's a human cost to this circus you're feeding. Kimmel's tone sharpened. Spare us the martyr speech. You make millions playing pretend. Depp smiled faintly. Acting isn't pretending. It's exploring truth in fiction, which is more honest than this performance you're putting on. The crowd's reaction was immediate, a mix of gasps and scattered applause. Kimmel's expression darkened as his grip on the interview slipped further from his control. Kimmel's facade cracked, his voice rising with irritation. If you spent half as much time preparing for interviews as you do delivering these poetic speeches, maybe we'd have a real conversation here. Depp didn't blink. His tone remained calm, unwavering. I came prepared to talk about a film that hundreds of people poured their hearts into. You, however, prepared for a tabloid ambush. That's on you. A hush fell over the studio. The audience, who initially expected light-hearted chatter, now found themselves witnessing a raw, unfiltered moment. Something rare on network television. Kimmel's jaw tensed. Let's make something clear, Johnny. This is my show. My name is on it. I decide how things go. Depp's response was razor-sharp, yet composed. And that, he said, is the problem with this industry. People mistake power for permission to disrespect others. You don't earn respect by shouting the loudest or owning the room. You earn it by listening and treating people like human beings, not headlines. The studio murmured, surprised at Depp's directness. Kimmel's producer frantically waved from the sidelines, signaling to wrap the segment, but Kimmel refused to back down. You think you're some moral compass now? With your history? Depp's eyes narrowed ever so slightly. I've made mistakes, Jimmy. I've never pretended otherwise. But I'm not the one ambushing guests for ratings. I didn't invite someone onto my platform just to mock them. The air grew thick. Even Kimmel's band sat frozen, their instruments quiet. Don't come on my show and lecture me about hospitality, Kimmel snapped, now leaning forward aggressively. Depp stayed seated, back straight. You've said it 3 times already. Your show, your rules, your control. Maybe that's what's wrong with entertainment today. Too many people in control, not enough people listening. The tension was electric, unlike anything audiences had seen. Kimmel fired back, his voice sharp. You don't dictate what happens here. I'm not dictating anything, Depp countered, his voice cool as ice. I'm calling out a system that confuses bullying with entertainment, provocation with journalism. Kimmel slammed his hand on the desk. You're done here. I'm not giving you a platform to preach. Depp rose slowly, his presence commanding. That's your choice, Jimmy. But remember, people are watching. And they can see the difference between genuine conversation and cheap theatrics. Kimmel turned to the camera, forcing a grin. We'll be right back with someone who actually respects this platform. Security guards appeared, hesitant and visibly uncomfortable. Depp didn't wait for them. He adjusted his jacket, offered a nod to the audience, and calmly addressed the crowd. To everyone watching, support the film. It's about real stories, real people, and real artistry, something we don't get enough of anymore. The studio erupted in spontaneous applause as Depp walked off, leaving Kimmel visibly rattled. Cut to commercial. Kimmel barked at the crew, ripping off his microphone. But the damage was done. The clip was already destined to go viral, and the narrative had shifted. When the show returned, Kimmel attempted to regain control with a canned segment and forced smiles. But the magic was gone. Online, clips of Depp's composure against Kimmel's aggression dominated social media feeds. Depp left the building without fanfare, but with his dignity intact. For Kimmel, fallout came swiftly. Executive calls, sponsors distancing themselves, and an avalanche of criticism about the toxic nature of celebrity culture. Depp didn't just defend himself. He exposed the cracks in the facade of late-night television, and reminded millions watching that integrity always leaves a stronger impression than outrage. If you think more people should see the truth behind these polished TV moments, hit subscribe. And tell us in the comments, if you were Johnny Depp, would you have stayed calm, or confronted Kimmel even more directly? If you found this breakdown eye-opening, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and join us for more untold Hollywood stories. Comment below. Do you think Johnny Depp handled the situation the right way, or should he have pushed back even harder? Your opinion helps shape the stories we cover next.